Good evening and welcome to Chicago Tonight. I'm Phil Ponce. On this Tuesday, February 16th. It may be frigid outside, but it's always summer inside this Southside rooftop greenhouse. The CEO of the urban farming company, Gotham Greens, tell us what's growing on. How many heads of lettuce can you fit into a greenhouse larger than a football field? According to Gotham Greens, which opened a vast rooftop greenhouse in the Pullman neighborhood last November, the answer is 10 million. The New York urban farming company aims to supply Chicagoans with leafy greens year-round using sustainable practices and clean energy. Here to talk about Gotham Greens' growing power is co-founder and CEO Viraj Puri. Viraj, welcome to Chicago Tonight. First of all, give us a sense of the scale of the place because it sounds massive.
It's very big. It's about 2 acres. So in farming terms, that's not very big, but given the technology that we have in the greenhouse, the yields that we achieve are equivalent to those closer to a 50-acre farm.
Is that right? So, it's how many times more productive than farm acreage?
About 20 times more productive.
And how do you do that?
It's a combination of factors. One is the climate control. So we've got sensors located all over the greenhouse that are tracking humidity, light level, CO2, oxygen, temperature. And we've got computer control systems that then monitor that climate and turn equipment on and off to achieve the desired conditions we want in the greenhouse. So we can grow 365 days of the year. In addition to that, we're able to respace the plants and really take advantage of density using hydroponic growing methods. So there's a combination of factors that enables us to get about 25 to 26 crop turns per year.
As opposed to like 2 or 3, which is what the traditional farm does.
Exactly.
Wow. You mentioned hydroponic growing. We've heard of it, but describe exactly what it is. How does it work?
It's a form of farming that eliminates the need for soil. Nutrients are dissolved in the irrigation water itself, and it provides for a very efficient, productive type of agriculture, and it's very well suited to areas that don't have a lot of arable land, such as cities like New York and Chicago.
And why a rooftop instead of a traditional greenhouse? Wouldn't it be easier just to set it up on the ground as opposed to on top of a building?
Certainly. It would certainly be easier to do it on the ground, but it wouldn't be as much fun. We wouldn't be talking about it today.
But look, you're in it to make money. This is a for-profit business. It's not a not-for-profit. Why do you build on a rooftop instead of doing it on the ground?
So when we formed the company back in Brooklyn, New York, back in 2009, we were looking for ground-based sites, but we simply couldn't find them. Being such a densely populated, built-up city, we just couldn't find any land available. It was cost prohibitive. So we started looking at rooftops as a viable alternative. It's a vastly underutilized piece of real estate, very large footprints, strong buildings, and we thought it was a very innovative sort of adaptive reuse of urban space, and it could really help underscore our story of urban revitalization, economic development opportunities, and urban greening.
And also, if you're planting on a rooftop, chances are you don't have to deal with shade issues.
Exactly. We rely primarily on natural sunlight for photosynthesis to grow our crops, and being on the rooftop, it eliminates the possibility of shading from taller structures. Absolutely.
So tell us what your garden grows.
The facility in Chicago primarily focuses on leafy greens, herbs, so we do about 15 different types of lettuces. We do things like arugula and kale and bok choy, and we do things like fresh basil. So we really focus on highly perishable products that often have to travel thousands of miles to get to consumers in Chicago, which results in a product that's not nearly as fresh. It doesn't last nearly as long, and it's not as nutritious.
Why just leafy greens, though? Couldn't you grow other things using this hydroponic method?
We can. There's a variety of crops that are grown on a commercial scale using greenhouse technology and hydroponics, including leafy greens, things like tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers.
Why not those? We
do grow some of those in New York. We focus on leafy greens in Chicago because there's no reliable local supply of those products in the market. They have a fast growing time. Crops very, very quickly, and we've gotten pretty good at growing them, a really high-quality product consistently and reliably year-round.
So who are your customers? Who buys these leafy greens?
So we sell to a variety of retail stores across Chicagoland. Whole Foods Market is a big one, Sunset Foods, Treasure Island, Peapod, and a number of others. We also sell to food service customers, restaurant groups like the Gibson's Group. And we also have a great partnership with the Greater Chicago Food Depository. So a portion of the product that we grow, we donate to them, and then they use their distribution channels to get some of that product to those in need.
Well, you haven't been around very long. How's business? How's demand?
Pretty good. The demand currently exceeds supply, so I suppose that's a good problem to have. We've been operational for about 4 months in the Chicago market and are growing into our facility. no pun intended, and really excited to be in this market. The reception has been great, and Chicago's such a rich food town with a rich food culture, and also a thriving urban agriculture scene increasingly. So the reception has been overwhelmingly positive.
You alluded to the, we've talked about the sunlight a little bit, but let's get into it in terms of so many cloudy days in Chicago. Isn't that a downside for what you do?
It can be. We do have some supplemental lighting in our greenhouses, so there's a lot of technology, cooling systems, heating systems, evaporative cooling systems, and lighting systems. So these are very coddle plants in our greenhouses, so that they make for happy, healthy plants with very high yields. And there's a great degree of technology that's involved in maintaining those optimal growing conditions for the crops.
But by and large, do you rely on natural available light as opposed to these backup lighting systems that you have?
Absolutely. It's primarily natural light. About 8 months of the year, we rely on natural light, and about 4 months of the year, there's some supplemental lighting on those extended cloudy days.
We're seeing one of your, this person evidently is an employee. How many employees do you have down there?
The Pullman facility employs about 44 people full-time, many of whom are from the local Pullman and Southside communities of Chicago. So we're really, a big part of why we try to locate our greenhouses in urban areas is to contribute to economic development and workforce development in communities in need.
Back to the issue of light, because in Chicago the winter can be really gray, and in the summer it can be scorching hot. Danger of burning up your crops in the middle of Chicago, July or August?
Not the Gotham Greens crops. I mean, they've got shade cloths, they've got evaporative cooling systems, they've got exhaust fans. We take very good care of them.
Sounds like you've got it figured out. You have a product called Chicago Crisp. Do Chicago consumers prefer different kinds of leafy greens as opposed to people in New York, or how does that work?
It's just a play on words. It's a nice alliteration. Chicagoans are proud, and we really want to emphasize the local for local. This is not produce coming from California or Mexico or New York, for that matter. It's grown in Chicago by Chicagoans for Chicagoans. So we just really wanted to highlight that it's grown locally. It's a unique lettuce variety that's not commonly grown. That does have a very crisp sort of texture, and we just like the alliteration with Chicago and crisp.
In terms of plans for the future, if this goes, it sounds like you've got customers for it. Any potential of expanding, building another one?
Absolutely. We're already looking at other sites in Chicago to continue to grow here. It's a huge city, 8 million people just in the city and the surrounding areas. So there's a lot of demand in the marketplace for fresh, nutritious, healthy food. So our company is certainly looking to expand in this market and other markets as well.
Any plans to open a retail aspect to it, a retail component?
Not currently. We're trying to get into more Southside communities, as evidenced by our partnership with the Greater Chicago Food Depository. So we're going to continue to try to get to those in need in areas that are known as food deserts that just don't have a lot of access to fresh, healthy produce. So we're going to continue to try that, and perhaps if we're not that successful in that endeavor, then we might open a retail storefront as well to serve local Chicagoans in the South.
Biraj Puri, thank you so much for stopping by. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And you can read more about Gotham Greens and their Pullman greenhouse on our website.